Alright, arrived in Chongqing probably about 30 minutes ago. Pretty much just dropped off my luggage at the hotel, had a quick bite to eat, and I'm already out filming. I'm pretty much not wasting any time while I'm here. I've only got about 3 days, and I'm dedicating those 3 days to just getting as much footage as possible. Still don't really know what I'm going to be doing with all this, and I don't even know what sort of project I'm going to be building or doing, or how it's even going to look. This and this is what I'm here for. This city is very inspiring to me. I've been here once before, for about 4 years ago, and it has changed so much since I was last here, already by the 30 minutes that I've been running around this place. So I've chosen Chongqing for a couple of reasons. Reason number one, the mountains around here are amazing, and the way that the city has to navigate around it is just so interesting, and it does so many interesting things to, get people around this city. Like monorails and the subway system and the bridges as well that cross this river is really quite unique, and not just for China but just in general. The architecture around here as well is just, well, it's some of the best I've seen. And the city is expanding and changing so much, yet it is such a traditional city. A lot of the customs that are here, a lot of the buildings that are still here, it's very, very it's very interesting to see. So look, that is just a couple of reasons why I'm here, and why I've chosen Chongqing as one of the places that I really want to go and basically build. I don't know what this is going to look like in Cities Skylines. I'm just going to get as much footage as humanly possible, run around this city like a man, and hopefully get enough stuff that I can use to then build and do something with. I don't know, wish me luck.
G'day guys, welcome to the very first episode of Sichuan Province. It feels really, really good to be saying that, because this means I am finally sharing my new project with you, and I've been working on this for such a long time, about 6 months, so you can imagine how excited I am to be finally sharing it with you guys. This is Sichuan Province, a series where I'm going to be taking inspiration from China and Hong Kong and even some other cities around Asia, and in particular I'm going to be looking at Chongqing, which is a city located not actually in Sichuan Province, but it's really quite close. This episode, I'm mostly just going to be talking about the series and the idea behind it, because like I said, it is quite different and unique, and I will also be jumping in and out and talking about different things that I am doing. Mostly what I'm going to be doing in this episode is planning where I want the main roads to go, so the road connections are going to be really awful because they're just there as where I want the bulk of the roads to go. And I'm also thinking about the landscape, because I want it to look in a very particular way, mostly with massive mountains, and these rivers also play a massive factor, which I'll talk about shortly. So yeah, that's going to be mostly the episode and me explaining what this series is going to look like. The idea for this series is to create a massive city. I want there to be a really huge population. I want there to be a huge skyline with quite a lot of buildings occupying the skyline. I'm obviously taking inspiration from China, so I'm going to be using a lot of my own experiences in China, but also using the ideas from a lot of the types of cities that there are in China to model my city to have such a huge population. And also I'll be using the poppable Relight mod, which will also allow me to have a lot of apartment blocks with quite realistic population within each block. So with a huge population, there's also going to be a focus on getting a really smooth and well-functioning transport system. We're going to be doing monorails, which are really quite unique to Chongqing. It's really just an incredible system, and yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. There's also going to be a really unique road system, so I'm actually not using any type of vanilla road assets. I'm instead using a whole bunch of custom built ones that are by a asset creator called Amamlia, and I'm definitely not pronouncing that right, but I'll leave a link to his Steam workshop in the description below. but he's got a whole bunch of roads that he's created that are based on roads in China, and I'm using a whole bunch of them, which creates really quite unique and very detailed roads. They're really hard to work with, but I'm actually going to do a whole episode on them actually in a couple of days, which you'll be able to see on the channel. So a lot of transport, and that's only scratching the surface. There's going to be a subway system. I'm actually going to be using the metro overhaul mods, which I'm really excited to be doing. It's been something I've been wanting to use for a long time, just having an excuse to do. So transport's going to be a huge factor. If you haven't noticed already, this is definitely not a flat playing field. We have a huge gradient level. There is a huge amount of mountains. There's also these rivers to try and work around. And I also want to take this inspiration from Chongqing, where there's still so much foresty areas, where there's still so much nature, yet the city is so futuristic and so overpopulated. It's so bizarre seeing such a difference. I think because there are still so many mountains around here, it must be really hard to just totally clear complete areas. And that is a very unique factor for Chongqing. Like, not many other cities in China are like this. Most cities in China, they're very well planned and they've been established for quite a long time, and nature doesn't really exist within them. Now, that's the concept for the city. That's what I want the city to look like. It's going to be so interesting and unique. It's going to be really quite a cool looking city. There's also just a huge amount of Chinese assets on the workshop at the moment. I feel like I couldn't have planned this at a better time. It was really a complete accident that a lot of assets started popping up like this. Otherwise, I don't think I would be able to do a Chinese city, but all of a sudden, as soon as I started thinking how cool this would be, bam, a whole bunch of asset creators just came out of nowhere and started making all these brilliant assets for China. So I'm so set. And if you ever want anything that I'm using in this series, then go to the description. There's a link to my collection, and there's just a whole ton of... I've been scouring the Steam Workshop for months, finding the best assets for this series. And it'll also give you a good insight to the sort of buildings that I'm going to be using. So why have I chosen China to be the setting for my new series? So I've been to China 3 times now. I went about 5 years ago and did about 2 months traveling in China from Beijing to the far western province of China. I went back and did Beijing a year later in wintertime and did Harbin to a winter festival. And I went back to China this year about 4 months ago. And when I went back, I went to the city of Chongqing, which is where I went to on my very first trip, because I knew how much I loved it, and it changed so much when I went back there. So I've been to China a fair few times, and I'm actually lucky enough to be going back there for a week in October, which I'll talk about at another stage. I find China incredibly fascinating. I think the cities in China are so different to any other type of city I've ever seen anywhere else in the world. With such a huge population and with such advancement in technology and even just the way that they engineer, China's cities are just expanding at a rate that is really quite incredible. So that's something else I would really like to put into my series, is to really show and really demonstrate Chinese cities. And look, I'm not an expert. I'm obviously not Chinese, and I've only been there a handful of times. So I can really only give you my own opinion, and I'm just taking inspiration from these places and giving my own take on it. So don't expect a very accurate report on Chinese cities, because I'm not going to be able to give it to you. This is my own interpretation. This is my own inspiration. I don't know why I'm so inspired. Well, actually, I do know why I'm so inspired. So you're just going to have to just enjoy what I end up giving to you. We don't have to enjoy it, I guess. Now, also, another part of this series, and something that you're probably noticing so far within this episode, is a little bit of my own footage. and even that first little segment of me talking to the camera, this is something I want to embed within this series, which obviously I can only do on location. So I actually filmed a whole bunch of stuff while I was over in China during my last trip there, because I knew that I wanted to do this series. And I wanted to embed quite a bit of that footage within each episode. So each episode is going to be structured in a different way. I'm going to be talking about what inspires me. I might be at that location. It's probably not going to be in every episode. Like, I won't be able to embed some sort of footage within every episode, at least not in that style as I did in that first little bit. But you can expect there to be some elements of footage and me talking directly about that inspiration too. And I'm also going to include a little bit of vlogging as well. So there might be, some episodes might have like a minute of me on site talking about what I'm enjoying or what I want to do. So it might be an interchange, or it might be the monorail system, or it might be whatever. And then we'll go into the episode and there'll be bits of footage as well. That's what I would really like to do within this series, so that I can actually talk about the inspiration on location as I'm traveling, and then we'll go into the builds and I'll work out how I'm going to take that idea and put it into the game. Kind of like essentially what I do when I use Google Earth, but instead it's me being there. And this isn't exactly a new concept for me. I've actually been doing this with my Australian series Down Under, but yeah, now I'm just doing it overseas, which is incredibly exciting. And like I said before, I'll be back in China in October for a week, and I would really love you guys to let me know what you want to see and what you want me to visit and what you want to see in this series, because I don't want it to just be me talking about my inspiration, even though a lot of it's going to be. I also want you to give me some ideas of places to go to, and I'm actually going to be back in Chongqing for the next, for about 6 days, which I am beyond excited to be doing. And I'm going to be there purely to vlog, purely to get footage for this series, so incredible. And on that, the way that I'm pronouncing Chongqing is definitely not the way I'm meant to be pronouncing that. I don't speak Mandarin, so I don't really know the right tones to be using. This is like an Australian butchering the name of the city. It's actually spelled Chongqing or something like that. And when I first traveled to Chongqing, I was pronouncing it with a more of a qu sound, which is not the right way you should be saying it, and people had no idea what I was talking about. So instead, this was the way that I was told to say it, and it doesn't sound right, but that's just the way that I was told to pronounce it. If you have been there before, if you know the city, please let me know a better way of pronouncing it, because I sound like a total douche saying it. Alright, so that's basically the series in a nutshell. It's going to be quite an epic series, and the city is going to be very, very unique and quite an epic looking city. I can safely say that because I've actually already built a little bit of it. Another thing that I'm going to be doing with this series, and much like the way that I started Springwood, is that I'm going to be building the city over the next 2 or 3 episodes, like properly building the city, so that you're not just looking at roads or one little suburb for, you know, a long period of time. Instead, I'm going to, in the next week's episode, I'm going to be building like a huge amounts of the city, planning out where I want most of the roads to go, and then but there's going to be all under detailed. It's just pretty much going to be plopped with the ideas of what I want to be there. The reason why I'm doing that is because I want this city to feel like a city from the very start. I don't want it to feel like we're building it step by step, which we will be doing, but I want it to always feel like a city. So over the next 2 episodes, it's really just going to be this, but then we're going to literally go from 0 population to 50k, because yeah, I mean, why the hell not? Let's get this ball rolling and really start off with a massive city. And then as the series progresses, we'll just detail and expand and just build this place into something massive. Much like Springwood, it's going to be a mix of detail and just expansion. Some areas are going to be completely under detailed, just buildings, and some areas are going to be very detailed. And there'll be a real mix between the two. I'm doing that because I want you to experience a city. I want you to experience the city that we are creating, and I don't want it to just feel like a tutorial. Don't want it to feel like you're just watching me build something. I want it to always feel like a city. This is something that I really loved doing with Springwood, and I want this series to be something similar. And honestly, I think that's how I operate, and I think that's probably what you are here for, because that's what I've always really done, is create, well, at least trying to create an experience and trying to create atmosphere. And it's probably why I spend so long creating cinematic videos and choosing the correct music and making the best intros that I can possibly make, because I really want you to experience something. I don't want it to just feel like another tutorial video. Hopefully that's why you're here, because that's what you're going to get. And being able to vlog it as well and be on location to talk about what I'm doing is just next level for me. It's something that it's really quite exciting, and I hope it's something that you guys will get involved in. And of course, Marble Mountain will still be kicking around. That's now that we're doing this, I'm going to be doing more live streams in Marble Mountain. I do already have a couple of episodes as well lined up. The really cool thing about the two series that are currently going on at the moment is that they're just polar opposites. Marble Mountain, we're actually pretty much built a massive city in Marble Mountain and a massive province, and now we're just sort of experiencing it and expanding and doing more stuff on it. Whereas this is going to be more detailed. It's obviously heavily modded. It's heavily, we got a lot of assets from the Steam Workshop, and it's at a completely different level to Marble Mountain. Now, I know a lot of questions probably are already being typed into the comment section. Is this going to be uploaded to the Steam Workshop? It's not. I'm going to leave this purely for my patrons, mostly because I want to give them more perks. The whole reason why I went to China in the first place and bought a nice camera to be able to do what I am doing is because they have been donating over the last year, and I had the funds to be able to go overseas and do something like this. And again, the reason why I'm going back over in October is because I'm using some money from my patrons to be able to fund a bit of that trip. So like their support has been pretty incredible, and the whole reason why I can do something like this. So if you are interested in supporting the channel, that money is literally going towards something that I'm really passionate about. This is a series that is something that I've embedded a lot of time. This isn't my full-time job. This is just something I do on the side, and I love doing it, and I'd do it even if it was free. But, you know, I can actually justify going to China to film something on location, and I don't even know if people are going to enjoy this series. I don't even know if it's going to go down that well, but I love it. I love doing this. So if you're interested in supporting the channel and getting behind this project, and also getting perks as well, because this save game is uploaded to my Patreon page every week, then I'd really love that. And a link to my Patreon page is in the description below. But of course, if you're not in a situation or you don't want to, the videos will always be uploaded to YouTube. And just know that I really honestly appreciate everyone who gets behind my projects. It's something that I really love doing, obviously, because I put a lot of time and effort into what I do. Also, obviously the name of the city is not Rockfield. I probably end up changing that to Sichuan Province down there. But I really don't know what to call the city. If you have a name suggestion for the city, then please hit me up. I would love a Chinese name, obviously. But I don't really, my Mandarin is not that great. So if you have a name suggestion, please hit me up in the comments below. We'll get to it eventually. I've got a few episodes that I've already pre-recorded with the commentary, so I won't be talking too much about the comments that have been left, but I will definitely get to it. Now, obviously I haven't spoken about what I've been doing on screen. It should be pretty self-explanatory. I think you can also see a lot of the custom roads that I am using. Like I said, these are such brilliantly decorated roads. I really love them. Maybe I think the decals are a little bit bright for my liking, but besides that, they're like exactly what roads are like in China. Otherwise, again, I wouldn't be able to build a Chinese city. These are literally the types of roads that are in China. Now, with the way that everything looks, so the LUT, the map theme, All that's listed in the description below. I'm also using Relight as well, which I do quite a lot of modifications to the way that everything looks over the next few episodes. In fact, it's probably not until episode 5 or 4 or somewhere down that track where I get everything looking exactly how I want it. For the next few episodes, you're going to see the colors change a bit, particularly in the next episode. The colors change dramatically because I'm just playing around with the settings. I'm using a really great map theme. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's really quite good. Actually, I do remember. It's called Homecoming. I'll leave that in the description below too. But all the settings that I have right now, so the LUT is a bit off and the color correction's a bit off. But by about episode 5, I think it's about perfect. And all the cinematics as well, all the cinematics that you see in the introduction, they're all done with the real light settings, like all the LUTs that I finally end up choosing. So that'll give you a good idea of how everything will eventually look. And also at this stage, I'm still using a mod. This is a custom mod that was created by Bad Idea. And he helped me out to create a mod that allowed me to turn up the fog levels in the city so that I could simulate pollution. So China's got like quite a bad smog situation happening in its cities. The first time I went to China, I expected it to be really bad, but it was actually just beautiful blue skies and it was fine. Then when I went back in winter time in Beijing, it was like awful. It was really hard to see within the cities. And then the last time I went to China, Chengdu was really quite polluted. But then when I went to Chongqing, it wasn't too bad. It was actually quite blue skies. So it like fluctuates and it's really different. I guess it depends on the weather and the wind. But I think it looks so cool. So this mod that he created, which is called Fogget, which is awesome. It allows me to change the level of fog, and I play around with it a little bit in this episode, which you'll see in the closing cinematics, and I'll continue to play with it over the next couple of episodes. I love the mod; it's fantastic. The only problem is I can't use Daylight Classic mod with it. There's a conflict, and without Daylight Classic, then I can't have Cubase mod working, which then just changes the sky color, and it doesn't work out very well. So I have to figure out the best way to use this mod depending on the situation. So do let me know what you think of the fog effect in the cinematics, which is pretty much now actually. This was a really hard episode to record because I had so much to fill in, but hopefully you get a good idea of what this series is going to be about. And please do let me know if you have any ideas or suggestions or opinions about the series, then hit me up in the comments below. But that's it. I hope you've enjoyed it. The next episode will be out in a few days, and then yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. Hello. Hi.
The mountains, the city, the way that the rivers, there's planes going over. Ni hao. The airplane? Yeah, yeah. It's too noisy. Yeah. Bye-bye.